All right. Step one with any word problem is to pick out the target. That's the unknown that they're trying to have you find. What's it going to be in this problem? Look for words like how many. How many what? How many oxygen molecules? So here's my road map. I'm going to travel for a while, and then I'm going to try to get to molecules, specifically O2 molecules. I'll just write molecules there. The next thing I have to do is decide where do I start from to get to molecules. All right, now they tell me in the problem, not just stretch across an inch, but they say that's 2.54 centimeters. So that's a good place to start. Now, if they didn't give me the 2.54 centimeters is an inch, I would have had to look that up. But since they gave it to me, I can start with that. Now, how do I know I start with that instead of the 121 picometers? Because look at what you're trying to do. Look at how the question is asked. How many molecules could you line up to stretch across 2.54 centimeters? So basically what you're doing is you're converting 2.54 centimeters into molecules. You're cutting up 2.54 centimeters into little pieces that are molecule sized. And you want to know how many molecules you're going to get when you do that. So that's how you know that that's the starting point and not 121. Now the 121 picometers, it says oxygen molecules are 121 picometers long. Now that is really a relationship, and it means one molecule of O2 is 121 picometers. So that's really a relationship. It's going to be a conversion factor for me between molecules and picometers. It's a connection between those, and I can use that in here. So step one was pick out the target. Step two is pick out the starting point. Step three is find links that are going to tie those two together. Now, if I look at this, it ties molecules and picometers together. So I could put into my roadmap here picometers, and this thing is the connection. One molecule equals 121 picometers. So that's the connection that goes there. Now I need to connect centimeters to picometers to finish the problem off. And you've already done that kind of thing. You've taken a SI prefix off and then put a new one on. So I'm going to take the first one off and just have centimeters to meters. And then I'm going to put the second prefix on. So I know how to connect centimeters and meters if I've memorized the SI prefixes. I put a 1 in front of the thing with the prefix, and then the power of 10 goes on the other side. And you should know what the power of 10 is going to be here. Centi means 10 to the minus 2. So that's the link there. Now you need a link here too. You need to go from meters to picometers. And again, if you know the SI prefixes, 1 in front of the thing with the prefix equals 10 to the what? Minus 12. So there's your road map. Now the next thing you got to do is turn this road map into a calculation. Let's see how to do that. All right, I'm going to write down my starting point again. And now I'm going to turn the first link into a conversion factor. What has to go on the bottom? Well, you need to get rid of the centimeters. So the centimeters part is going to go on the bottom. And if that went on the bottom, then this is what has to go on the top. When you do a conversion factor, the top and the bottom have to be equal to each other. So that's what I've got. Okay, Now I'm going to go, if I stopped here I would have meters. I can see that the centimeters cancels out because there's a centimeter on top and a centimeter on the bottom, and I'm left with meters at this point. So now let's go to the next step on the roadmap. What has to go down here? It's got to be one of these two things, and I have meters that I want to get rid of. So meters has to go down here. And if I look at the link that I'm working on right now, there's a 10 to the minus 12 sitting in front of that. And then on the other side, there's going to be 1 picometer. Now the meters cancels, and if I stopped here, I'd be at picometers. What has to go down here? We're working on this one now. What has to go down here? Well, you got to get rid of picometers, so you know picometers has to go there. And if I look at the link I'm working on, it really is a roadmap. It tells you where to go next. And then I can put 1 molecule on top. Okay. Now, I can feel a little bit confident that I've set this up right because everything cancels out except the units of my target. Now, let's do the calculation now that we have it all set up. Don't need that roadmap anymore. We just need the setup. So I'm going to punch it into my calculator here. And I'm going to do it like this. 2.54 times anything that's on top. And I'll key this in as 1 EE minus 2. Divided by 1 EE minus 12. Divided by 121. Now we could do the powers of 10 kind of in our head too. It's a little bit harder though because I have to turn this into scientific notation to do all the powers of 10. Well, let's do it. It would be something like 2.54 times 10 to the minus 2 divided by 10 to the minus 12 divided by 1.21 times 10 to the 2 on the bottom. Okay, so if I do this in my head, 2.54 divided by 1.2 is going to be very roughly 2. And let's combine the powers of 10. I got 10 to the minus 2, and then you subtract out the exponent here. 10 to the minus 2, 10 to the minus 2 minus a minus 12 would be like 10 to the 10. And then I have 10 to the 10 after I do that, minus 2 would be 10 to the 8. So I should get something roughly like that if I do the powers of 10 thing. And if this was a multiple choice question, I would have picked out the right choice. Now let's key it in and see how close we got. Just doing it in our head. Okay. Let's see. 2.54 times 1 EE. Okay, now watch how I do the minus sign. On this calculator, there's a sign change key. So when I do the minus sign on the exponent, I'm going to use this. Not a real minus sign, this. So I'm going to say minus, and it flips the sign on the exponent in there. 2. Okay, so I've keyed in this. Now I'm going to divide by this. Divided by 1 EE, and I'm going to use that sign flip key again. Minus 12. Okay. Divided by, because this is on the bottom, 121. Now if I keyed this in right, I'm going to get something about that size. Let's see if we do. Yeah, looks pretty close, right? I'm getting off of the calculator keypad 2.099 times 10 to the 8, which is just, pretty close to that. Now, how many significant digits am I going to have in my answer? Well, let's look for the weak link. This is actually exact, but they don't tell you that. There's at least 3 figures there. This is exact. This is exact. This has 3 figures, so 3 figures is what I should report this to. So I need to round this off to 3 figures. So I'm going to cut it right there at that 9, between the two 9s. So I've got something bigger than a 5 there, so I have to round up. So I'm going to write my final answer down as 2.10 times 10 to the 8. And now don't forget to put the units on there. In this case, we're counting molecules, so my units are molecules. Put a box around that. That's how you do that. Now I'm just having you fill in little pieces of this process in this question.